Look, I'm not going to bullshit you here. Life isn't easy. It isn't fair. It isn't all sunshine, lollipops, and unicorns. However, your outlook on life can make it incredibly enjoyable and worth trudging through all the obstacles you are faced with. The way I look at it, you can either be bogged down by every little thing that goes wrong, or you can learn from these events and use this knowledge to live a more exquisite life. I'm not going to sit here and tell you everything will be okay if you just believe in yourself. Life isn't some fairy tale where everything ends up happily ever after. What I am going to say is that if you learn to take control of your life and work to fix all the negative things that happen in it, rather than dwell on them, you will find life to be much more enjoyable. A quote comes to mind by the famous martial artist and philosopher Bruce Lee when I think of this.
Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. Put it into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or creep or drip or crash. Be water, my friend.
What this means is basically you should not spend your entire life worrying over every little thing that goes wrong. You should learn to take control and adapt to what life throws at you. Roll with the punches. If the game of life deals you a bad hand, stack the deck. Don't live your life like Jake and Gatsby from The Sun Also Rises and Great Gatsby respectively. They were both stuck in a rut because of what happened in the past. Jake lost a great deal in World War I. Rather than try to find a way to help himself and live with what had happened, he spends all of his nights poisoning himself with alcohol and being around that whore Brett, who serves as nothing but a constant reminder of what he has lost. Then we have Gatsby, who is plagued by an obsession over some woman named Daisy that he had a fling with 5 or so years ago. Things didn't really work out between them, and he has been spending all of those years just trying to work his way to get back to her. This obsession with the past just ends up in his own death in a very poor time for his friend Nick. Spoiler alert. The inability to move on and adapt to one's life gets even worse with Heathcliff in Wuthering Heights. He was so caught up with how crappy his childhood at Wuthering Heights was that he made it his sole purpose to ruin the lives of everyone around him. Heathcliff is a classic example of how someone is completely consumed with all the turmoil and hardships that interfere with their lives. Rather than adapting to what life gave him, Heathcliff was turned into a hollow shell, incapable of feeling even the slightest compassion for himself or others. This is not the proper way to live life, and is a truly disheartening existence. Far too many people are completely engulfed by the negative events that have happened in their lives. They remain nothing but husks of their former selves. Scrounging through the farthest parts of my memory banks dedicated to school reading, I come across a teen novel read freshman year titled Breathing Underwater. The main character, young Nicholas Andreas, suffered from anger management problems that stem from living with his very abusive father. At first, Nick was like our other friends we mentioned earlier, and lived a rather bitter life. His issues began to affect the people around him. He ended up losing close friends, his girlfriend filed for a restraining order, and he was forced to attend a group therapy. Eventually, Nick learned to control the way he felt. He learned not to worry so much about the past, and to adapt to it. He was even confronted his father and made sure not to be abused by him anymore. Nick was able to grab a hold of his life before it was completely lost, like Jake's or Heathcliff's. Now for a more personal anecdote. I'm going to be completely blunt here and just say that my freshman year was complete shit. My mom and stepdad were getting divorced, we were losing our house, some of my closest friends were fading away, and, well, I was a freshman in high school. For a while, I let all of this pile up and bog me down. I began to just not care about anything. I felt like life sucked and there was no point in it. After a few months, I realized this thought was folly. I began to change my outlook on life. I used all these negative thoughts and events to reinforce myself and strive to make things better. I learned to flow with the river of life, no matter the currents. Things began to really turn up. Shortly after I had changed my life, I realized I wanted to help others feel the way I did. This is when I decided to start studying to be a psychologist, and I'm still sticking to this, hoping to one day improve the lives of others, similar to how I improved my own life. Life is many things, but easy or simple it is not. Don't take this as me saying life is nothing but bad hardships and sorrow and all that nasty stuff. Life is what you make it out to be, and we all have the capacity to make the most out of our lives. We just have to learn to take control. Learn to use the negative to reinforce ourselves and to make the positive even better. Learn not to be consumed by the thoughts of the past to the point where we ruin our present and cloud up our future. We must learn to be like water, my friends. This is